Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Let's Count. Now, you might be asking yourselves, what are we counting? And why are we counting it? Well, without further ado, we are counting the calories of a homemade from scratch coconut pound cake with a heavy glaze. So stay tuned as we go through the calories of this cake and the process. My name is Ashley Richardson, and I would like to consider myself your countess for today's episode. You see it, you see all the things that we're going to be counting today. Because when I eat cake, I eat cake. I don't skip on the butter, the eggs, the sugar. I just don't. But I have the satisfaction of knowing exactly how many calories are in my cake and how many calories are in each slice of my cake. So stay tuned as we get into that process. We all know how important it is to look at our labels when we're counting calories. And so here I'm just showing you just a few of the labels of some of the things that I'm using: the cake flour, the confectioner's sugar, the coconut flakes, just some of the components that are going to go into the cake. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, there's the cream cheese. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, always look at your labels. So here you see me creaming the cream cheese and the butter, getting it nice and creamy there. That's very, very important. And then after creaming the cream cheese and the butter together, I'm adding in my sugar slowly. That's 3 cups of sugar, 3 sticks of butter, and a full block of cream cheese. And we'll get into the calories of each of those things a little bit later. The reason why I'm adding in the sugar slowly is because I want to make sure that those granules get well incorporated. Just a note: when you're baking your cakes and you're going through this creaming process, you want to make sure that all of that sugar is creamed well into the butter or whatever it is that you're mixing at this particular point. Do not rush this process. If you can still hear the sugar, you have not creamed it long enough, and it should turn out to be a nice, light, whipped, fluffy texture. That's me turning the mixer on high so that it can cream. And as you can see here, you can see that the texture of the batter has changed. And I'm now slowing down the mixer. I love my mixer. Love it, love it, love it so much. I'm now slowing down my mixer because it's now time to add the eggs. Now, generally, I add my eggs in one at a time, but these eggs were extra slippery today. You're going to see them go in two at a time. I said they was going to be like Noah's Ark. They were going to go in two by two, and that's okay. But just making sure, if you can, if your eggs aren't extra slippery like mine were that day, add them in one at a time. You never want to crack your eggs directly over the batter. Crack them in a separate container to make sure that you don't get any shells into your batter. But mixing it on low, maybe about 10 or 12 seconds for each egg, just making sure that you don't see the yolk, but you do not want to over mix your eggs. And so that's why I turned down the speed there. So you see me mixing those eggs. And now I am getting ready to add some flour. I'm not going to show you the whole process. It's 3 cups of Swan's Down cake flour. Turn the mixer on slow, because if you turn that mixer up too high, too fast, flour is going to go everywhere. I am now spraying my tube pan with baking spray. You can flour and butter, or butter and flour if you choose, but this is just more convenient. I have added my sweetened coconut flakes. Y'all, I'm doing all of this one hand, camera in one hand, spatula in the other, so bear with me. I'm folding in my coconut flakes, and I have now put the batter into the tube pan and shaking it to get the air bubbles out. In goes the cake, 315 for about an hour and a half. And there we have it, a perfectly baked coconut pound cake. So delicious. It smelled so good in the house. So, so good. I'm letting it cool under an umbrella. I don't ever let my food just sit out. And there you have it. There is the pound cake, perfect rise, no sticking. You can see the flakes of coconut there. I'm telling you, y'all, it smells so good. and it turned out so well. Now, I did not want to do an icing, but just a heavy glaze. And there are my ingredients there for my heavy glaze. Yes, I'm using Imitation for the glaze because it's clear and I want my glaze to be white. There are the coconut flakes, there's the confectioner sugar, and you see the scale there because we are going to measure our ingredients because I want to know to the T how many calories I have in my cake. And it's very important. I love my scale. You see, I started off with 82 grams, and by the end of it, I know that I'm going to have 322 grams of sugar just based off of the measurements on the bag, just simple addition. And I know that I have my cups of confectioner's sugar there. So what you did not see on camera is that I just took a spoon, or I think it was a knife, and I had heavy whipping cream and my 2 cups of confectioner sugar. I used heavy whipping cream because I wanted the glaze to be thicker, and I whipped them. I did not use a mixer, just the good old arm, and got a good arm workout. And I'm putting that glaze on slowly. I love to watch that glaze fall down the edge. And there you have it. There's a thick glaze. It almost kind of gives you the feeling of an icing. If you don't feel like going through the icing process, sometimes I feel like it, sometimes I don't. This particular day, I did not feel like icing a cake, so I did a heavy glaze, and it's going to be delicious. Watching that glaze fall down the sides, that free falling, the cascading. You see a little bit of the glaze in the center, and it's a beautiful thing to see. And I'm going to add my coconut flakes on top. I believe I used 4 tablespoons of coconut flakes and just sprinkled them across the top, and you're going to see that next. And really, that's the cake. A pound cake with a heavy glaze, um, with coconut flakes on top. I also added 2 tablespoons of coconut flakes into the batter, and voila, we have an instant homemade cake. The best thing about baking is when you cut into the cake and you see the texture and the color and you see how moist the cake is. Y'all, this cake was so moist and it was so good and so flavorful. Yep. Y'all definitely see it. It was a really good cake. I have my extracts in my glaze, extracts in the cake to bring out the flavor. And really, it was a simple cake. It did not take a lot, but the simple things, if you do them well, the cake turns out well. You can see that I have that cake partitioned and ready to go because it's time to count the calories and create a recipe. So you guessed it, we're going back to MyFitnessPal, to the meals, recipes, and more. And this is an incredible portion of their app because you can create your own recipes and you know exactly what you're eating. I have created so many recipes within this app and they save and you can go back to them. And another great thing about that is that it's a digital way to hold all the recipes that you create. So it doesn't matter if I've baked a cake, made a meatloaf, a pot of spaghetti sauce, whatever the case may be, this app comes in clutch when I really need to know how many calories per serving of what I'm eating. And so just to give you a rundown, and it may or may not be in order as you see it on the screen, but I'm putting everything into the recipes component. I'm just simply calling it my coconut pound cake because that's what it is. I didn't do a layer cake. I toyed with the notion of doing layers, but then layers would have required me to do an icing, and I just didn't feel like going through all of that. So we did a pound cake. Um, and I added in 3 sticks of butter. There are 8 tablespoons in 1 stick, and each tablespoon of butter has 100 calories. So if you do the math, if we count, and that's what we do over here on this channel, we count, just the butter alone is 2,400 calories for 3 sticks of butter. I also added in 3 cups of sugar. You're going to see me added in 72 and 72 because sugar, the measurements are by the teaspoon. and 3 cups of sugar is 144 teaspoons. And so I'm adding it in that way because for some reason on the recipe component, it doesn't go past, I think, 99 or 100. So I do it 72 and 72. I also added in 5 large eggs. We talked about eggs being my favorite food, and we all know that the eggs are 70 calories. So that's 350 calories for the 5 eggs. I used Swan's Down cake flour, and that's 100 calories per fourth of a cup. And then when you get into the glaze, there are 3 cups of confectioner's sugar and several tablespoons of heavy whipping cream. Each tablespoon of heavy whipping cream is 50 calories. 50 calories. And so this is a very calorically dense cake. But like I said earlier, when I eat cake, I like to eat cake. I want it to taste like one of those cakes that the mothers of the church baked. You knew when you had your function after church, or you had a little evening service or one of the church cookouts. You know that somebody's mother, grandmama, auntie was going to be making a pound cake. And if they knew that what they were doing, you knew that cake was going to be moist. You knew it was going to be good. You had you some of that good old church red punch, with what they put in it, the ginger ale or the Sprite, maybe some fruit punch or some Hawaiian punch, and maybe a little piece of pineapple juice. You knew you was gonna have you some fried chicken from Mrs. Winters or wherever you get your fried chicken, Lowe's, Walmart. You knew you were gonna have somebody was gonna do a little macaroni and cheese, a pasta salad. You knew you was gonna have some banging pound cake and some of that good old church punch. And that's what I wanted my pound cake to taste like. I wanted it to taste like somebody's grandma with that fat hanging down from their arms. When you stir and you see that little piece of meat that swings back and forth. That's what I needed my cake to taste like. I needed it to taste like somebody's grandma in the kitchen with no air conditioning, baking a cake, bringing it to the church with the white doily on their head, serving it with the white gloves. I needed all of that spirit within my cake. So when I bake, I don't skimp on anything. I do all the fat, all the things. Yes, I put salt in my cakes, and I use salted butter because I even season my cakes. We can't have nothing around here bland. The cakes can't be bland. The chicken can't be bland. Nothing can be bland. And so the cakes even get seasoned. So you see me just there as I ramble on and on. Y'all know I'll get off on a tangent. I'm adding in my components there, and I'm showing you real time after I was done baking the cake. I sat down, I added in my ingredients, and I'll just let you all watch from here. I'm going to go back into my recipe here. I originally started off with 16 servings. I'm going to change that to 24 servings because with the 16 servings, each serving was going to be over 500 calories. And so I wanted to drop the calories per serving. And with doing so, it dropped it to 351 calories per serving of cake. So I have great pleasure in knowing exactly what I'm eating. I have control over what I eat because I baked it and I know exactly what went into it. I hope that you all have enjoyed today's cake baking process and being introduced to the recipe component of MyFitnessPal. Please come back again, like, comment, share, subscribe. And if you like seeing me bake cakes and things of that nature, drop down in the comment section and let me know if you want to see more things like this. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, my name is Ashley Richardson, your Countess for this episode, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next one. Bye.